Hi, I'm Richard Morais, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
Okay, you ready? Okay, so is it easier to judge somebody or to love somebody? Straight up, man, judge. It's easier to judge. Walk them in here, let me judge them right now. Let me tell them exactly what I think about them. Let me just judge the heck out of them. Right? Now, is it always easier to judge than love? Do you have at least some people in your life, no matter what they do, you go, oh, that's just adorable. Look at her. Is that the cutest thing? She just doesn't know how to put on an outfit. God bless her. Right? Do you ever do that? No. No, we're just, see, because what I want us to see, we've been doing the summer series on the summer of love. And the whole point is that in this time of great conflict, we got to kind of decide where we're going to stand. Are we going to stand and continue to judge the heck out of each other and not move the planet forward? Or are we going to stand for a place of love? Because sometimes we absolutely feel justified in judging the heck out of people. And we just feel so righteous. And sometimes we don't even say it out loud. Right? We just quietly judge them. Because we just know how right we are. That we don't even have to say it out loud because we're that superior of a person. Right? But what I want you to see is over and over again that we're at this critical point. Either we're going to move toward love or we're going to stay in conflict. And the amazing thing is that when you stay in conflict, you just get more and more opportunities to be in conflict. There's more and more reasons to stay in judgment. There's more and more people that are just wrong. Right? And so we have an opportunity over and over again to stay in our rightness or to choose to give up our rightness to go to love. And we're at this critical point where we're going to either move in this direction or not. Have you noticed, though, that it's actually easier when you're full to be a loving presence? Like when you're not feeling full, how difficult sometimes it is to be a loving presence. Let's put that first slide up, if you would. I'm going to go with, no, not that one. We're going to go that one. That one. Okay, so when you're full, that's the green one. When you're full, imagine your soul is overflowing, right? Now, if your soul is overflowing, is it easier to give the excess to the people around you? Right? We pray every day, give us this day our daily bread. Every day, the idea is for us to be full and overflowing, right? And when we're not overflowing, then we begin to feel a little depleted. That's the middle one. Now, how many times have you felt like you're not completely full and the situation asks for you to be a loving person? Now, this is where we tend to move into judgment because we're not overflowing. If we're overflowing, I'll give them a little love. They don't know any better, right? We're just overflowing. But when we start to notice that we're not full, that's when judgment really kicks in because now we've got to decide if they're worthy of our love. And that's when we get really clear. No, that person's not worthy of my love. Yes, that person is worthy of my love. And we start judging them because we're not full. And I want you to see that distinction over and over again in your life, that when you notice that your judgment is up, I want you to really check yourself to see if you're full. Because when we're not full, we start to really begin to monitor how loving, how generous we are because we know that it's not an infinite supply, or we feel like it's not an infinite supply. And then the third one is when we get to crisis. See the little red spot on the bottom? Right? At that point, we are in crisis. We don't have enough love to get through the day. Right? We're dragging. We're barely getting by. right? Now, what's interesting about that one is sometimes we get to that place and then we give the last little bit of love to somebody and we say to them, well, I gave you all the love that I had, right? And then we say things like, well, I gave you the best years of my life. Right? And it's this idea that if we're pathetic enough that somebody will love us. Right? Because at this point, we're not being generous, we're not overflowing, we're actually just scraping the bottom of the barrel and trying to be a loving presence. And also notice that when there's an inverted relationship between love and drama, right? The lower levels of love that we have within our soul, it tends to be the higher level of drama we do. And if you look at the times in your life where you were doing lots of drama, anybody can think of a time where you were doing lots of drama, notice how low you were in love. Because when we're not full, we go to drama every time. We start telling our stories, start telling our drama, we start doing this over and over and over again. So what I want to do today, what I want to focus on, is getting you full. In fact, that's really what the fourth week is all about. The fourth week is about you being so full that your cup is runneth over, that you're giving from the abundance within you, not from a place of lack. You know, in our prayer, every week we pray, give us this day our daily bread, that you're supposed to be full. I am filled to overflowing with love. Will you say that with me? I am filled to overflowing with love. Let's go to the 5 principles that we've talked about in the Summer of Love. Let's go to the first one. That's good. So we began with the opening thought was that we're not going to add conflict to the world. How are you doing with that one? Have you noticed your tendency to want to add conflict? To put your 2 cents in even if nobody cares? Right? So the first principle we started with is that for this week, for this month, for this series, we are not going to add conflict into the world. We're just not going to add more conflict to the world. The second one we went to was open your heart. And the moment we open our heart, the infinite love of God begins to flow. But our hearts have to be open for love to flow. We can't just think love. We actually have to be love. We actually have to open our hearts and let the infinite love of God flow through us. And then the third principle we talked about was the idea of seeing the greatness in all people. That's really the spiritual principle, is that we're going to see the God, the Spirit, the Christ, the Buddha, the divine in the people around us, that we're going to see the best in everyone. We're going to see God in them. And then last week we focused on the idea of what it looks like to accept people and how much that's an act of love. That if everyone has free will, and we all do, then if we have free will, we get to make whatever choices we want to make. And if we're going to be a loving community, if we're going to be loving people, we have to give people free will. We have to give them acceptance. So our acceptance is, I accept you just the way you are. I accept you without whatever choices you make. I accept you. And as we practice accepting each other's humanity, it opens up our hearts even bigger. Because sometimes it's hard to accept people. And when I really invited you to look at the person in your life right now that you're having the hardest time accepting. And what would happen if you opened your heart big enough to accept them just the way they are? Okay, you with me on that one? So now we're going to focus on getting you full, okay? Let me share with you 5 ways that don't work. And I want you to see how many of these are you using on a regular basis that aren't helping, okay? First one, hours of stupid TV rarely fill you up. True? Have you ever binge watched 12, 14 hours of TV, and at the end of 14 hours of TV, you did not feel better about yourself, your world, your life in any way, right? So TV rarely fills us up. Maybe 10 minutes of a funny show, but hours and hours of other people's drama is not always helpful to get filled. Second one, whatever your addiction is not a good way to get filled up. Does everybody know what your current addiction is? Are you conscious of what your current addiction is? And what I want you to see, when you're participating in your current addiction, it rarely fills you up. Whatever it is, it's not helpful. You don't come away from your addiction feeling more empowered and feeling more loving and more full. 3, junk food. Like one of the things that happens when we're empty is we crave sugar. We do. We crave sugar because we're looking for something that's going to instantly fill us up. And what happens with sugar, it's this wonderful, almost spiritual promise. It is. Sugar has this promise that I will get you a quick hit. And then what happens 20 minutes later? It's a quick bottom. Right? So when you're empty and you're reaching for sugar, that's not it. Okay? 4, going unconscious. Not helpful. Right? How many of you, when you're low or when you're empty, think worrying is going to help the situation get better? Right? So these 5 things never, ever work. So let me give you 7 that do. The first one is nature. Nature is one of the great restorers. I know this time of year you have to get up early, but nature is a great restorer. Go for a walk, go for a hike, get out in nature, feel nature, because nature has this incredible ability to restore your soul. Water, bathing, swimming, showers. Water has this way of rinsing your soul of all the things that you no longer need. Water is incredibly healing. Meditation. Laughter, your special thing. Do you know that we all have a special thing? Your special thing might be cocaine or baking, or everybody has a special thing. That when you're doing your special thing, it is life enhancing. It adds to you. It fills you up. And we all need to know what our special thing is, because every one of us has something that when we're doing our special thing, it is life enhancing. For some of it's going to work or being in a relationship or playing with the dog. It's our special thing that we know is so life enhancing. It renews us over and over again. The other one is music. Singing, playing, listening to great music. Because over and over again, what we know is that beauty reminds our soul of God. Is that true? That one of the ways universally we relate to God is beauty. Because there's something about beauty that so deeply touches our soul because it reminds us of how God is. That our soul relates to God through beauty. And the 7th thing that I want to share with you that's going to be the focus of the rest of the talk is connections with others. Ideally, our connections with others are the things that restore us. See, the idea of having all 7 billion of us on this planet was the idea that we're all here to help each other recharge. Because life on this planet can be difficult. So that we're all here to recharge each other so that we can all be full. Now, do you ever have somebody in your life who, in your conversation with them, they are so completely draining that you can't wait to hang up the phone? Like you want to rip the phone away from your ear and just, not that we slam things down anymore because nobody has a phone like that anymore, but you know what I'm talking about. So what I want to talk about today is the difference for why some interactions with others can be so completely draining and some interactions with others can be so life-enhancing, because we need to understand what the difference is. Because if our primary relationships are life-draining, that's not good. And we need to understand what we can do differently to evolve and restore our relationships so that all of our primary relationships are life-enhancing. Are you with me on that one? So the number one thing I want you to see that kind of defines a relationship as life-enhancing or life-draining is the degree that you tell the truth. See, in life-enhancing relationships, you absolutely feel safe to tell the truth about yourself. Not to tell the truth about them, right? You see the difference there. Life-enhancing relationships is like, I'm so glad you're here so I can judge all the things that are wrong about you. And I'll just feel so much better now that you know how wrong you are. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is in life-enhancing relationships, you are free to tell the truth about yourself, and they will love you right there. Because in a life-enhancing relationship, we are encouraged to be vulnerable. We're encouraged to be honest. We're encouraged to tell the truth. And so if you're in a relationship, if you're in a conversation, and for 20 minutes you're just bragging and lying and cheating and stealing, when you walk away from that experience, you never feel engaged. You never feel uplifted. You never feel empowered. You never feel loved. In fact, if you're lying in your relationships, you are not feeling better at the end of that relationship because it's exhausting. Right? Because now you got to remember all the lies that you just told so you don't tell them again the next time. Or if you do, at least you can keep track of them, right? But what I want you to see over and over again is you have to tell the truth. And in our culture, we get really scared about being vulnerable. We get really scared about telling the truth because we're afraid that if we really tell the whole truth, that we don't have it all going on. If it doesn't look as perfect as we'd like it to look, we're afraid that people aren't going to love us. And that's where we need love the most. I love you right where you are. Will you say that with me? I love you right where you are. One more time like we mean it. I love you right where you are. So if somebody comes up to you and shares an honest insecurity, and your first response is, you shouldn't feel that way, right? Are they going to walk away from that experience empowered and feeling loved? No. If somebody comes up and shares an insecurity with you and you say, oh, let me tell you how I fix that. Are they going to feel empowered and loved? No. If somebody comes up to you and shares an insecurity and you say, you know, this is really what you need to do in that problem. It doesn't work. Like what I want you to see is that when you share an insecurity, when you share fear, when you share something that's true for you, when you share a place where you've been disappointed or wounded, the only thing you really ever want to hear is I love you right there. Let's say that together. I love you right there. One more time. I love you right there. I love you right there. Because in that moment, you're actually healing the place that they haven't been able to heal themselves. See, there's three sources of love: God, self, and others. Three sources. That's it. All you get is three, right? And so when you're not feeling connected to God, how much are you feeling God's love? Remember the video we used to show all the time about Maya Angelou talking about her relationship with God? And she did the affirmation over and over again, God loves me. And there was a moment when she did that affirmation so much that she actually felt it, where she felt it all the way down to her core that God loves me, right? So that's one. The second one is that we're here to love ourselves. But if you've been taught over and over to judge and condemn yourself, how generous are you with love to yourself? I would like to suggest that most of us really do not do a good job at self-love. And then sometimes we believe that if we're the only ones that can love us. Have you ever heard that? It's an erroneous idea. It's a really crazy thought. Sometimes in spiritual circles, you hear people say, well, I'm the only one that's ever going to love me. Well, God, hope not. Right? Because the reality is that we're all here to love you. That all 7 billion of us are here to love you. But you have to tell the truth about who you are and what's going on in your life so that you can actually feel our love coming back from you. Because if you're just putting on airs, if you're just putting on a front, if you're just putting on a facade, nothing gets through that. So there's God, there's self, and there's others. And we're here today to fill you up. Right? So let's practice, okay? So let's say you have a bad week. Let's say you have 2 bad weeks. And you're just stoically going through it, right? If you look at if we could draw a graph, what you would see is you started out here, and after the day or 2 days or 3 days, you're just getting emptier and emptier and emptier and emptier. Because why? because you're not sharing with another child of God what's going on in your life so that they get to love you right there. Well, Richard, I don't have anybody in my life. Okay, let's play this little game. I want you to look at everybody in your life as either a green, a yellow, or a red. Is that fair? So all the greens are people that you know you can go to because they will unconditionally love you. Richard, I'm not sure I have any greens. Well, let's find out, right? Right? So how do you know who the greens are in your life? How do you know let me just keep asking it. How do you know who the greens are in your life? So the way you know if a person's a green in your life is you tell them something about you. Now, it doesn't have to be your deepest, darkest secret, but you got to be vulnerable. You got to risk actually using your words to share something about you and to see if they respond to you in a loving way. Now, if they consistently try to fix you and you kind of help them a couple times and say, you know, I don't really need to be helped here. I just need to be loved. Like if they never get that, then you realize that they're probably a yellow. And what a yellow is a person who loves you sometimes and sometimes doesn't. Or a person that you don't know well enough to know if they're a red or a green. And a red is somebody, maybe a very nice person. But a red are the people you know the chances are very, very small that they're going to offer you unconditional love. They're going to help you. They're going to judge you. They're going to fix you. They're going to do anything but say, I love you right there. And over and over and over again, the most important thing is for you to get loved right there. For you to be vulnerable enough to tell the truth about what's going on for you and see if another human being, if another child of God can love you right where you are. And so that you get filled up. You get to actually feel what it feels like to be unconditionally loved. And you say, well, Richard, nobody can unconditionally love me. Well, that's why you need 3 or 4. Because does everybody have a right to have a bad day? Yes. So if you have 3 or 4 people in your life that can unconditionally love you, if somebody's having a bad day, you pick up the phone and call the next one. Right? And it counts. How many of you have ever tried to get a red to love you in the way you wanted to be loved? Anybody? Right? With this idea that if we could get a red to love us, somehow reds have a higher quality of love. That's kind of what we think, right? That if I can get a red to love me, it means more than if you get a green to love you, because greens are just too stupid. They just love everybody, right? But reds are hard. Their heart is closed. I mean, they're nasty. So if they love you, it's something special because you had to work for their love, right? There's a time in my life where most of the prominent people around me were all reds. And I was working real hard to get their love. And then I realized that it was the same love from a red or a green. And I didn't need to work that hard to get loved anymore. And it changed my life. Like, if you're working hard for love, you are not doing it right. And you can say, well, they're not doing it right. Yeah, but you're going to them. Like, who has the problem? You or them? You know they're red, but you keep going to them. Well, they're my parent or my spouse or my friend. They're supposed to unconditionally love me, so I'm just going to keep standing on the railroad track, even though I know at 2 o'clock every day that train is coming down the track. Whose bad is it? I have the right to be unconditionally loved. Together, I have the right to be unconditionally loved. Now, as we practice that over and over and over, as you reach out to people and tell the truth, but you got to be vulnerable. You got to be honest. You got to be real. You got to tell what's really going on in your life so that they get to love you in the place where you need love the most, because we have to fill each other's up. If we don't do this, we just keep doing this drama dance over and over and over again. I need everybody in this room to be significantly more full for this planet to heal. Does that make sense to you? Like, if we keep walking around between yellow and red, our planet's never going to heal. But if you give me one room of people that want to stay consistently full and are willing to be greens for themselves and for others, we can literally heal the planet with one room full of greens. And so if you're not full, do something. Tell the truth. Be vulnerable. Reach out. Risk. Tell what's going on for your life to the safest person you know, and let their love be enough. When you go to a restaurant, do you know who cooks the food? Probably not, right? Probably not, right? And is it just as good whether you know who cooked it or not? Right? As long as it's good food, right? So what I want you to see is that love is love. It really doesn't matter who cooks it as long as you get enough. Do you know the only difference between a car that's on empty and a car that's on full? It's how far it can go. Right, that's the only difference. If you take identical cars, one you put less than $1 worth of gas in it, one you fill up the tank, one can go for a long ways, and one has to be looking for the next gas station. In your life, if you're the car that's running on empty, your job every day is just to find the next person that can love you. And the whole purpose of your day is just to go from one crisis to another until somebody loves you up. But when you're full, you actually can greet the day because you can go through the whole day knowing that any little bit of love you get along the way just throws you over the top, that it's just party time because you're overflowing. I am overflowing with love. Will you say that with me? I am overflowing with love. So I want you to change the way you're doing life today. This is the middle week. And the middle week requires that we get overflowing, that we actually fill our souls to the brim. Because one of the things we've talked about this year over and over again is that the soul only does two things. It either expands or it contracts. That's all the soul will ever do, is expand or contract. If your soul is empty, is it expanding or contracting? It's contracting. If you're filled to overflowing, is your soul expanding or contracting? Expanding. And as your soul is filled to overflowing, as it's expanding, guess what? It has room for more love. It has room for more God. It has room for more good. That over and over again, the most important thing is for you to be full. Who's responsible for you being full? I am. Tell the truth. Let people love you right there. Be transparent. Be vulnerable. And see if the people in your life can meet you right where you are. If you're living alone and isolated and empty, you are doing it wrong. I cannot be more clear about that. If you don't feel like anybody's going to love you, then you are going to the wrong people. It's time for you to be surrounded by greens. That is the easiest thing in the world to love you. You are a child of God. You were created in the image and likeness of God. Over and over again, I want you to be full. I want you to be so full that we can heal this planet. But we can't heal it from people that are barely getting by. We can't do it. There's just not enough love. And all the while, the love of God is infinite. I am filled to overflowing. Will you say that with me? I am filled to overflowing. One more time like we actually mean it. I am filled to overflowing. My love is overflowing. Together? My love is overflowing. Let's pray. I want you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God. That right here, right now, we allow the love of God to fill us to overflowing. And we are willing to tell the truth, to be honest, to be vulnerable with the people around us. And see if they can love us right where we are, right where we're hurting, right where we're in need, right where we feel lost, right where we feel confused, to let the world love us right there. And in the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. God bless you all. Have a great day. Thanks for being here.